Hello friends, and welcome back to Alien Protocols, the Advanced Protocols Data Project. We are a grassroots people's disclosure, where our objective is to capture not only one UFO event on multiple cameras and scientific equipment while live streaming, but we want to actually build a relationship with that extraterrestrial group and live stream everything. It's a big dream, but you can't accomplish big dreams if you don't dream big first. In this episode, I wanted to dive into something that's kind of a overlooked but very, very significant aspect of the UFO phenomena. And it's very logical. When you look at the larger motherships, they're usually very high in the atmosphere. They're not on the ground, they're very high up. You usually see them above the cloud level at least, or in space. And the numerous cases of the government capturing these on satellite and other types of equipment, we'll never see that footage. Well, some of it we may. But NASA has a lot more footage of these type of craft than they've released. And it's really deplorable because NASA is a public company. And this is in the public's interest. But anyway, so we have these larger craft that go 375 feet and up. They're generally the cigar shape. They have field propulsion units on the sides. But there are also the classic saucer shapes when we step down. And generally, as you step down, there are more craft. So the motherships, of course, release several of the intermediary craft, or multiples of the scout craft, but we'll get to that. So the intermediary craft, which is the large saucers of 125 feet and larger, and they can also be triangles, and there's a whole bunch of different types and classes of UFOs. And according to different trends in mathematics over several different years, the most prevalent shape was, of course, the plasma ball, the light fireball, the orb. But after that, the circle was very highly rated. Then the triangle, and then some different shapes. So that's very interesting to realize. And there's different times of the year where there's a peak as well too. But anyway, to go back, these intermediary craft release smaller scout craft, and they are 42. They're like the Tic Tac and other saucers and a bunch of other craft that we just saw. And they're around the 42-foot level. And these are the common UFOs that most people see. The different sizes, the different shapes, the different configurations. There's many different configurations and different sizes for these intermediary craft. But what's fascinating is that as you go lower in size, as you get smaller and you get closer to the Earth's surface, the number of these craft increase. And what's often overlooked is, yes, there's Tic Tacs, but the Tic Tacs release even smaller craft. And there's a lot of videos of UFOs spinning and then shooting out a bunch of other craft, and the little craft zip around each other and zoom off. There's a famous case in Mexico that's corroborated by multiple different camera angles, completely different videographers, and has really stood up to the test of time. So it's an amazing case that shows how, intermediary or scout craft can release a bunch of smaller craft. So once again, as we get closer to the Earth's surface, we get more craft and smaller. Okay, more craft and smaller. And so finally you're left with these little different type of sample drones that run anywhere from 3 feet. They can go, up to 15 feet, but generally they're much in the smaller range, closer to 3 feet. And they can even be small saucers at 15 feet. But then when you start getting lower than 15 feet, the shape starts changing a little bit more. You get more into the shape-shifting bean kind of shape. That can still be at around 15 feet. But the bean can also be in the scout range of 42. But then most common is the sphere, or the orb. Now, and that's interesting when you go and look at this other chart over here that says the most common sightings, statistically, numerically, and you can see just by numbers here, aside from the white orb, is a circle or a sphere. Very, very interesting. So anyway, let's go back to this for a moment. Why these tiny little spheres? Well, what happens is the Tic Tacs release these tiny little spheres to go collect biological physical samples. If you remember from a previous episode, the famous Tic Tac incident, there was a craft that, right here, and the jet fighters came in and saw an interchange between a craft and a Tic Tac. And the only reason why physically they would need to contact each other is to exchange a physical item, a biological sample. If it was strictly information, they could have just sent it, of course, electronically or any of a variety of other ways. So, what do these little tiny craft look like? Well, there's a lot more of these on the surface level than you would think. A lot more, zooming around us, zipping around at speeds we can't detect because they're moving incredibly fast, but also because they have the metamaterial on their surface. But they have been captured, and numerous different times. And I think that an actual active program could be created to hunt and look for these smaller craft. And I have a bunch of ideas on how this could be done. You could set up some infrared units, boxes that capture any movement in infrared. So it's a simple program, actually. All you need is a camera in the box, and then you could record anything that moves that's different than the background in infrared. And you could put these boxes in high probability locations that we believe the craft would be going to. So that might be an interesting project, hunting for the sample drone. Just an interesting thought and a notion for us all to think about. How would you guys hunt for some of these sample drones? Much love to you and yours.